Hey guys, Break here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about professions, and I'm going to be ranking the professions for you guys from the worst to the best in terms of gold making. Now, I'm not going to be talking about the gathering professions in this video, mostly because I don't do much gathering, and it's very hard to compare a gathering to a crafting profession. It just doesn't really work. So we won't be talking about those, and we also won't be talking about the secondary professions, such as fishing and such as cooking, but we can do those in another video. And please bear in mind, as I do rank these professions, it's just my opinion and from my experiences on my server and a couple of the other servers I'm on. But we're in a very weird place right now where all the prices are very volatile, the servers vary massively in terms of what's profitable, and it's also a strange place because it's been out for a week, there's so many materials on the auction house and people are buying less and less gear and less things to do with that, and the raids aren't out, so stuff like flasks aren't selling as well as they should be. So it is a weird time to be doing a professions video, but a lot of you guys have been asking for a kind of overview, so that's what I'll be doing today. And then in a couple of months time I'll probably do another professions ranked video just to tell you guys how things are, once we're in the meat of the expansion and the raids are out and everything's looking good. But for now, I'll just do my initial thoughts on what's going to make you the most gold in BFA right now. So first of all, coming in at number 8 as the worst gold making profession right now is Alchemy. Now it's a bit unfair to put Alchemy here because the raids aren't out, and obviously when the raids are out, that's when Alchemy performs at its best. But we're just doing the video for now, not for when the raid comes out. That's why Alchemy is at the bottom. In BFA, Alchemy has the usual sort of stuff such as combat potions, such as the flasks, such as transmutes, and obviously the trinkets that they always put in every expansion. And whilst this is all good, right now people just aren't buying them and the profit's just not there really. It's very easy to get into this market. And guys, I know I don't have rank 3s for all of these, and some of you may have rank 3s already, which is fine. But the rank 3 doesn't actually make that much difference. I obviously have looked up what the rank 3 does, and even so, it still makes them not very profitable on my server. If you guys look at the profits from Alchemy, it's all just negative. This is TSM, by the way, guys, but all these profits here are negative, and it's just not a good time. And whilst the other professions have old world stuff to really bring it back to the forefront, Alchemy doesn't even really have that good old world stuff. People do occasionally buy old world potions and flasks, but not really. There's a couple of transmutes that can work, but again, not that great for gold making. And to be fair, I even have the Vial of the Sands recipe, which makes a huge difference to Alchemy, but most of you won't have the Vial of Sands recipe. And even with the Vial of Sands recipe, I wouldn't put Alchemy much higher, because realistically, it's just not worth it right now. Anyway, that's why I've ranked Alchemy as number 8. So coming in at number 7, we have Jewelcrafting. Now, I've ranked it fairly low, and I usually rank it higher. I usually am a big fan of Jewelcrafting. In fact, that's why I had it on my main in Legion, because it was really good with the use of Blood of Sargeras and all that. But they've made Jewelcrafting, I think, a bit too accessible again. Anyone basically can start it up, and within no time they can make the best gems, and I just really don't think that was a good idea, and it has affected Jewelcrafting quite a lot. Now, the rings were making a ton of gold right at the start, but these have gone right down now, and on some of the low pops they might still be a bit higher, but eventually they will go down because they're very, very easy to craft, so don't bank on making gold with the rings for too much longer. Now, the weapons are actually quite cool, and they're still holding some of their value because they're a bit harder to make, so that's cool. So the weapons can still make you a bit of gold, but it's really not amazing. Again, the profits on TSM are all in the negatives. And similar to Alchemy, in terms of the old world stuff, it's not that great for Jewelcrafting compared to some of the other professions. Now, I know a lot of people make some nice gold on the Panthers, and if you are on a server which has profitable Panthers, then it puts Jewelcrafting a bit higher up. But on my servers, the Panthers aren't that great. It seems on the high pop EU servers, Panthers aren't that great unless you're sort of really meticulous in how you get your materials, and I'm usually a bit lazy, so for me, that puts Jewelcrafting at number 7. Not too great this expansion so far, but again, when raids come out and everything, maybe we'll see a spike, who knows. Anyways, next up we have the gear crafting professions. Now, it's quite hard to sort these out in between number 6, 5 and 4 for what I think is the best to the worst, but I'd say probably tailoring at 6, blacksmithing at 5 and leatherworking at 4, but realistically you can interchange that depending on your server and the types of old world material recipes you've got, all that kind of stuff. So I actually made most of my gold the past kind of week or two, well not most, but quite a lot of it from the crafting professions, the gear crafting professions, and tailoring in particular was really, really good, but it is starting to fall off now. The price of cloth has remained fairly stable, but the gear has started to fall down, unfortunately, and it's a bit annoying. It's also not the best way to get expulsum. It's a good way, but leatherworking is a better way to get expulsum. That's why I put leatherworking slightly higher. But if we do look at our profits, I mean, they're pretty good. A lot of the gear is still making a nice profit, and if we get a nice proc, then as you guys know, we can sell it for more. In fact, I was selling the Legion crafted gear throughout the entire expansion, right up until the end, so it worked quite well. I'm a bit worried about the gear crafting professions this expansion because they're very low item level and there's no kind of obliterate to upgrade them. So I really hope they introduce some sort of upgrading system so we can, you know, make them relevant for the entire expansion and not just right for the start. Because if we don't have that, I feel these are going to become more and more irrelevant and it's kind of going to kill them off. That's why they're not as high as maybe they could have been. So at number 5 we have blacksmithing. I put it a bit higher than tailoring because, like I say, a few of the materials, especially the old world recipes and materials, are kind of rare, and if you can get those cheaply, you can craft some cool recipes for transmog, etc. It does make it pretty good, even if the current world stuff isn't that good. But even so, BFA stuff is pretty good. I made a ton of gold last week from all of this gear, but again, it's starting to die down now, and unless they change the system, it's going to die down even more, unfortunately. But it is nice being able to craft the weapons, and obviously making stuff like the hoof plates, they actually sell for a bit of profit, so that's really good. And again, not too much profit showing on TSM, but it's not that reliable, the TSM profit thing, as we know. And in fact, the weapons still make you a fair amount if you can get the ore for fairly cheap, so that's all good. And that leaves at number 4 leatherworking. And the reason I put leatherworking a bit above the others is, well, it's a couple of reasons. I think the fact that a lot of the gear requires expulsum to create, which weirdly some of the other professions don't. I don't know why they made it different. But anyway, a lot of the gear requires expulsum, and that puts it at a bit of an advantage because, you know, it's just another barrier to entry and some people might find it confusing or whatever. So it's really good for expulsum as well, because when you create the leather braces, you can literally get an expulsum for like 100 gold or something, because the braces cost literally nothing to make. On most servers right now, with the price of shimmer scale, the braces cost like 5 gold to make, and per 6 braces you get 1 expulsum if you scrap them, so you can get an expulsum for like 30-50 gold, which is ridiculous. So that, the way it shuffles expulsum, kind of puts it above the others. It also has the drums. Where are they? Down here, drums, which is always good, and that's going to put it a bit above the others. And a lot of the gear, weirdly, is selling a bit more profitable, as I said before, probably because of the expulsum fact, but yeah, a lot of the gear is more profitable, at least on my server, than the other two, so at least leatherworking gear will stay for a bit longer, and that is why it's above the other gear crafting professions, and it is at number 4. Okay, so at number 3 we have ourselves engineering. Now this is a very strange one because it completely depends on server, and also completely depends on stuff like the mounts, which is, you know, coming out soon. A lot of people will be able to sell that for a nice bit of gold, and, you know, we just don't know what these sort of prices are going to be like. But I think engineering, whilst it's not amazing right now, it's fairly good in terms of the old world stuff right now, and I think the new world stuff will kind of stay into the new expansion a bit more than the other professions, which is why I've put it at number 3. Obviously there are some weapons you can make, the goggles as usual, which aren't amazing, to be honest. In fact, you can't even sell them. Usually you can sell them and they're just, no one buys them, but this time you can't even sell them, so there you go. A lot of the devices, which are kind of interesting, and some of them could see some profits. And then there's the stuff like the scopes and all that. And whilst the profit's not really there right now for the BFA stuff, there's still a bit to be made. And like I say, engineering old world stuff's awesome right now. Really, really good. Stuff like the auto hammers, stuff like the failure detection pylons, they're still going to be running. They're still going to be really, really good. And if you can get all the old engineering sort of recipes, you're going to be in really good stead for the entire expansion, because there's so many useful ones they're never going to run out. And like I say, when the mount comes out as well, should be a nice bit of profit boost. So I really like engineering. If you guys watch my gold cap challenge, I always make a lot of gold with engineering, and that's why I have put it at number 3. So at number 2, we have ourselves Enchanting. Now I was going to put this at number 1. It's very, very close, but I couldn't really knock Inscription for how well it's done the past week. But Enchanting has been really, really good this expansion. I haven't even leveled it that much, which is quite bad. I should do, because then I'll get the rank 2s and it'll be even more profitable. But already the weapon enchants are very, very profitable for me. The re-enchants, crazy profitable, but that's because they cost so much to make and no one's really buying them either. But even so, right now re-enchants crazy profitable if people buy them. And yeah, enchant is really good. It's also really good for the disenchant feature, because a lot of the enchanting mats are so expensive across the entire region. Then if you are on your main, I think enchanting is a must-have, because you're running dungeons, you get gear you don't need. Definitely don't scrap it. Well, I wouldn't scrap it. I would disenchant it, because you've got a good chance of getting some of the really expensive enchanting materials, which are selling for like 5-10k. So I think enchanting's really good for that reason right now, because how expensive the enchanting materials are. Also, enchanting's really good because of the old world stuff, particularly the Tome of Illusions. You guys know all about Tome of Illusions and how they can make a ton of gold, but make sure you get those, because those are always profitable and always worth having. It's just such an easy way to make a ton of gold, and combined with how good the current BFA enchanting is, that puts enchanting in really good stead, and I'd recommend anyone to have it, particularly on their main. Anyways, at number 1, we of course have Inscription. Now I could not put anything else at number 1, just because of how much gold so many people have made with the Dark Moon cards. People have made so many millions and millions and millions, including myself, from the Dark Moon cards. Obviously they've gone down a lot in price now, but even so, some of the good ones like the Fathoms are still selling for a tasty amount. And if you do it right, buy the herbs cheap, mass mill properly, and then make yourself some Dark Moon cards, make a load. Hopefully you'll have enough to make the deck, and if not, you can buy a couple left. And either you make the decks or you just sell the cards by themselves, because the cards themselves are still selling for a nice amount. Anyway, this is by far the main reason for Inscription being so high. And like I say, in a couple of months' time, when I do this video again, look back at the professions, I don't think Inscription will be so high. But also it has a few new things. Obviously the contracts, which everyone thought would be crazy at the start of the expansion, and they weren't quite as crazy as we thought. But even so, they're still making a profit on my server, and I've only got rank 1. If you can get the top ranks for the contracts, you're going to be making a nice bit of gold. And it's kind of cool. It's sort of a mixture between a kind of transmoggy item. I'd rank it as like a transmog item, because it's not like it's not something you need, it's just something you might want for like rep. But at the same time, it could be something you need, because if you really want to get this gear from one of the reputations, etc. So it's in an interesting place, the contracts, but I really like them. Obviously you've got the Codex and Tomes of the Tranquil Mind and all that, which you can still make, so those are doing good. And a lot of the old world Inscription always sells really good, the fans and all that for transmog, so Inscription's always fairly good. The new glyphs as well are selling for a really large amount if you can get your hands on the new glyphs, and the old glyphs as well, a lot of people rolling new classes, etc. Overall, Inscription is just in a really good place, and I would recommend you again to get it, because like I say, the Dark Moon cards in particular are going to go falling in price, and you know, we don't know what's going to happen with contracts and all that, so I don't know how it's going to be in a couple of months, but for now, Inscription's been really good. If you had to pick 2 professions, for me it would be Enchanting and Inscription. Obviously for Inscription, you've got to make the inks properly, and you've got to mass mill properly, and you've got to actually look at the data. So it's a bit harder to get into Inscription if you want to make sure it's really profitable, but if you're smart with it, if you can mass mill the herbs for cheap and get these sort of inks and all that for cheap, then it's really profitable. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed my little video. It's just my opinion. People usually get really mad at these videos, but hopefully you guys don't. Thanks for watching, and until next time, see ya.